Namaste. So we come to the Yoga of Divine Love, which is the shortest part of the synthesis of yoga apart from the introduction. So introduction is roughly about 50 pages. This is about 58, 59 pages. But the Yoga of Divine Works, 250, Yoga of Integral Knowledge, another 250. So those who judge by the numbers may may be disappointed because Sri Aurobindo speaks of bhakti as the crown. So, meaning thereby that all else seems like a base which is preparing itself for the crown. And in one of his letters, he says that you may do a physical yoga, have astounding capacities and control over the body, illuminations in the mind, surprising siddhis and feats in the vital. But if you have not become a child newborn to the mother, then this yoga cannot be done. In fact, he goes to that extent. And if we look at the drift of Sri Aurobindo's writings, and this I want to emphasize because very often when I hear many of these talks, seminars, and it is presented as if it's all about the mind, the intellect. Sri Aurobindo is, of course, not easy, but I think we have made him even more difficult. By emphasis so much on, the mind approach and stilling the mind and silencing the mind, all these are parts of yoga without a doubt. And this is an integral yoga, so everything is required. But the core of yoga is bhakti because Sri Aurobindo speaks of this yoga beginning with the surrender to the Divine Mother, proceeding through an increasing, progressive, detailed surrender to the Divine Mother, and culminating in a complete surrender to the Divine Mother. So, this is the way the yoga runs deep within. So, when we speak about love, it immediately means that it is forming a relation with the divine. This is something very beautiful about it. Many people don't realize that when we speak about knowledge, it is something like aspiring toward the self by our own efforts. Yes, the self acts, the divine self acts, but largely there is a focus on one's own effort. And usually it ends in a impersonal universality. That's why those who take that approach of the mind, they normally end up with there is no way we can form a relation with him. He just that absolute, and I have become that absolute, Shivoham, etc., etc. Then the yoga of divine works takes that divine is not just an abstract, impersonal universality, a silent Brahman, but he is dynamically participating in the world play. In fact, it is his will that is pushing the world play. So, from this understanding or this experience comes the yoga of divine works. So, there we have to align ourselves more and more to the divine will. So, yoga of knowledge takes hold of the mind, the idea, the power of the idea. By meditating upon the idea, by reflecting upon the idea releases its contents, the truth that is behind it. Whereas the yoga of divine works takes its stance on the divine as the doer of all works, as he is the one who is behind this manifold play, and to connect with him by doing his work in the world, by becoming an instrument, a channel, and finally, through that process, dynamically identifying with the divine will and the divine leela. But divine love is something which, as Sri Aurobindo says, you cannot even put it in a strictly standard format. It's love. So, love implies three things. One is the one who loves, the other is the one who is loved, and the third is the path of love. So, what is love seeking? Love seeks ultimately the joy of union, the intensity of union, and the eternity of union. That's why human love has this flaw. Love is same. There is no not human love, divine love. There is only one love. So that's why he names it as yoga or divine love. But in human beings, it becomes human love. Gets distorted, limited. But its seeking is the same because it is ultimately, it has only one source. So here also in the human play, it seeks intensity and eternity of union. Now, in human love, you can have an intensity of union or not eternity, and not eternity. Both are very difficult to maintain. But in the divine love, loving the divine, it's possible to have an intensity, and how the divine create that intensity by an ever progressive disclosure. You feel you have joined him, and he draws you still further, still further, still deeper. And then that embrace, even there, the one who loves the divine enjoys sometimes that slight difference, keeps it up for the joy of the play and the joy of bhakti. So it is one of the most powerful, Sri Aurobindo says, one of the most powerful, straight, direct path. And this opens to the heart and the emotions. So, but to still understand it as a path or take it as a path, first thing to understand is that everybody who is religious generally is a bhakta. Bhakti is a path which has taken a religious form with so many cult symbols, rituals associated with it. It starts like that. And as the Gita says, Sri Aurobindo confirms that there are different motives, even of love. So, according to the Gita, there are two lower motives. And if a devotee has these two lower motives, he is not yet into the yoga of divine love. And there are two higher motives, out of which there is only one which qualifies strictly as the yoga of divine love. So, the two lower motives are arth and artharthi. In a time of distress, people ask divine help, and it's a valid thing, it has its own place. It springs from desire in a state of distress. And the other is artharthi. We go and ask several things from the divine, worldly goods. And the divine accepts this bhakti. People often ask, why won't he? Because this way, the real trick is when we start connecting like that, a time comes when we start loving the one who is giving us, the giver of all boons. But these are lower forms of bhakti, and they do not really qualify for the yoga. They are the bhakti of a devotee, and anybody in the world can seek this help. Even a non-believer, it doesn't really matter, who in distress calls the divine, divine may well grant, he may come and intervene. But there are two higher motives, and the third is seeker of the divine, which is a higher motive, where he wants to know about the divine. Why he wants to know the divine? He wants to serve the divine. He may want to just understand what divine nature is about. And the highest motive is he who loves the divine as a knower of the divine. So he has no doubts. He has sought the divine to an extent, he has found the divine, and now he loves him because he is so lovable. As Sri Aurobindo says at one point about Krishna, Krishna is lovable. I mean, you just can't help it. So that is a unique part about Krishna. The other day we were talking about Rama and Krishna. Rama is adorable, admirable. But Krishna is lovable. You doesn't matter, he breaks the frames, breaks the rules, if ever he had any. But he's just lovable. Whereas with Rama you admire him, but you know that it's not easy to follow him. And yet you admire and adore him. So in bhakti also, it starts with adoration. Or even before that, some kind of admiration. Like a person admires, oh, Sri Aurobindo, he has written so many books and so wonderful. So it can start with admiration, which is perfectly fine. Then it changes into adoration. The moment it changes into adoration, then something like a bhakti starts. So in adoration, you just wonder about the greatness and the glory of the divine. So when Mother was asked about who is the divine, one of her definitions out of many was, the divine is what you adore in Sri Aurobindo. It's a very beautiful, simple definition. So it can start with adoration. But this adoration must further graduate into consecration. Adoration is when I go to a temple or Gurudwara or some place and or in a church, I simply adore his qualities, attributes, and sing a strot. But then when I come to my life is colored by my ego. So adoration must graduate into consecration. So consecration means now my life, it's not enough that I have gone there and had some contact or adored him. I must live my life according to what the divine wants me to be. And therefore I start consecrating my work. So the yoga of love starts changing into the yoga of divine works. And both of them eventually end up with the grand disclosure of the divine in terms of his knowledge of the divine. So often I have used this comparison, and if we approach the divine through the door of knowledge, he takes us into his study room. And we may stop there. But if we want to know more, always there are professors whom if you ask questions, you will say, now you are going outside the syllabus. But I'll teach you this. Come to my home and I'll tell you a more secret. I'll teach you privately, because it cannot be done with all these people. So through knowledge also we can enter deeper and deeper, but we start from the study room of the divine. Through works, the entry itself is very grand. So you tell that, well, I want to serve you. So the divine says, okay, this is in the kitchen, this is here, that works. So you slowly start taking hold of all the works, and by works you come to know the master and his likes and dislikes. So you may not read a book or discuss the book, but you now know who the master is, what the master wants, does not want, how he thinks, how he operates. So you get that knowledge. But when you love the divine, he takes you straight into his secret sanctum sanctorum, makes you lie on his bed, if I may say so, and says, I'm going to tell you my secret dreams. Because you want to mingle with him, merge with him. And when you know all his secret dreams, obviously you know about him, and obviously you serve him because now you know what the divine wants of you. So these three different paths are essentially one. Also, human nature is not just one-stranded. So Sri Aurobindo describes all this in the very first chapter. We'll see love and the triple path. And then when it speaks about motives, there is a whole hierarchy. The lowest motive, which is very crude, is fear. Khuda se daro. Fear of God. Now fear means there is a great distance. You don't want to meet people whom you fear. If you see somebody whom you are afraid of, what is the natural tendency? To go away from him. But here you can't escape him because he's everywhere. So you are afraid, and you try a little bit to regulate because he should not punish you. But this is a very crude, lowest motive. Still it is acceptable. Then after fear comes favor. He is an omnipotent power, and if I ask him something, he is the ultimate boss. So he can give me favor, and very often people try to bargain, give certain things and get certain things in result or reward. Divine may or may not accept, but this is again a very inferior populist notion of bhakti. They don't really qualify for bhakti, but it's okay. Divine accept this kind of relation. Then from fear and favor comes a third relation, which is the divine as the legislator. So in my life you have a lot of suffering, and you want him that, so and so has done this with me, so and so has done that with me. I have done good, but I haven't received my due. So you look upon him as a judge who rendered justice, and that is a third degree, a third level of relation. Fourth degree level of relation is where you conceive him as the dispenser of law. There is a law, and you must live according to that, because that's the law that he has given. And because you love him, love means some kind of love. Okay, you want to be obedient, you want to be his servant, or you want to do according to what he wants us to do. So this is the fourth kind of relation. But then slowly it enters into a mainstream of bhakti where all relations begin to get turned toward the divine. So he becomes the father. And like father, you know that well, I belong to his, I'm his. So it gives a tremendous support within, Suryavanshi Rajkumar, I'm Suryavanshi, I am children of Surya. So you dare not touch me, because whatever I may do or may not do, don't forget that we are from the sun, solar dynasty. So Suryavanshi, the supramental. So this way, this idea, even if we think for a moment, I belong to the clan of Sri Aurobindo, his kul, it brings a totally different dimension altogether. Or the divine as mother. Now here, of course, we have the divine mother, but like Krishna, what is the mother aspect in Krishna? I will look after you. Yogakshem Vahamyam. So you carry on with your life, but divine is for you the mother. She is a provender of all needs. Takes care of all that you need. I must share a little story here. I know of a person whose daughter was psychologically totally deranged, schizophrenia. And I was the one who was taking care. I came at some point in contact, and they wanted to know, can she get married? And I said, see, it's never advisable, because who will first of all marry? I mean, very ordinary people in terms of money, extraordinary as a human being, devotees of the mother and Sri Aurobindo, the man, but his wife was a devotee of Krishna. So now he said, I said, see, even if somebody marries, within few days he'll come to know because she has to take the pills and all. Then one day I got a card that she's getting married and all. I was very happy. And how this happened? So one day his wife was in great distress. And he was also in great distress. That who will look after this daughter? Because there is no brother, nobody. No family member will look after. So they were in great distress. And his wife says to Shri Krishna, I don't know, I have loved you. You are her mama. Like that. I have treated you like my brother and tied Rakhi to you, which she had done. This is one of the customs. And you are her mama. So as mama, maternal uncle, you are supposed to make sure that she gets wedded. Because this is the custom. In the northern part of India, mama comes and does the Godh Bharai. He says, you have to do this. I don't know. I can't do anything. Within 15 days, out of the blue, somebody approaches. And they get married. They have child. And doing very well. It's one of those miraculous stories among many, many of our own lives, of course, but which is beyond any comprehension. So that's one kind of approach as father and mother. She will provide for our needs. For every distress, we'll go to her. At one place, Sri Aurobindo says that the Divine Mother wants the child's soul goes in all difficulties to the Divine Mother, and the Divine Mother wants it to be so. Because she can pour her heart of love upon the child. See, this is something which people don't understand. Just as an aside. People think love is about wanting. But I know of people who feel stifled because they can't give. But they want to give. And if they cannot pour the love, something feels stifled inside. Because love is fulfilled by giving. So it's so Divine Mother wants to pour the love. And if we are not ready to receive, if we have closed our doors, we are living by the ego, then really speaking, you cannot enter into that. So she wants that for everything we go to her and tell her, Mama, this is my problem, write a diary, whatever way. So there are 100 ways of relating with her as the Divine Mother. So this one, she may even, you see, mothers can scold you, but at the end of the day, she always protects you. She may scold you, even give a slap. But if somebody else comes, like Parvati, she will stand safeguard and say, even if gods are there, you don't touch. He's my child. This mothers will do. Fathers will ask, did you really do something wrong? Did you do something illegal? All these things. But mothers have this instinct. So, as the mother, then he becomes also the friend. So, who is a friend? He is a confidant. You tell him everything. Your dreams, your problems, your difficulties. It doesn't matter. As a friend, he never judges us. He will always find a way to rescue us. Not that he will encourage our, if there is an evil propensity. But he will always listen, not judge, he will not condemn. He will help us through life. That's what a friend do. Or we can relate him as a leader of the march, human march, and fight under his banner. And so much so that Indian Bhakti has even created an idea of Vair-bhav. So Vair-bhav is where you are angry with the divine. Like Charu Chandra Datta says, I don't want to talk to Sri Aurobindo. Chief has just abandoned us, gone away. And one of those examples, Sri Aurobindo says in one of his aphorisms with regard to Ravana. He says, outwardly Ravana was wrestling with Rama, challenging him, etc., etc. But his soul secretly wanted to go back to that space from where he had fallen. Of course, he doesn't say Vair-bhav is the best form of bhakti, but this is all kinds of relations that we experience in humanity. That relation we can experience with God and to much more perfection. I mean, I'm sure everybody who has taken that route knows what it means. But the greatest of all relation, he says, is of the lover and the beloved. So as I think earlier I mentioned about it, so there comes a catch. At least I used to experience this dilemma. Now what is beloved? So beloved, I realized that beloved is the one from whom you hide nothing. And whatever you may think with the world, this person is relating with this or relating with that, as he says in one of his aphorism, to commit adultery with God, this world was perfectly created. And he says that we owe to the world, something by way of duty. But secretly, we love only the divine beloved. So this is what beloved means, ki whatever it be, people may think you love this person, that person. It's not that you people think. There is a kind of love and relationship. But deep inside, your love, your allegiance, your faithfulness goes to the Divine Mother. So all these manifold relations start ultimately culminating only in a single aspiration for union with the Divine, the joy of belonging to the Divine, the joy of living for the Divine, and the joy of just being one with the Divine. And then in this process, there are some ways and means which come very naturally in the yoga. So one of them is prayer. Now prayer is uniquely in the yoga bhakti. And Sri Aurobindo says people, very intellectual people, they think it is sentimentality or they doubt its efficacy. But it's not about it being efficacious or not. So in prayer there are two approaches. One approach is that, well, you have prayed and he will grant. It's almost like mechanical, which is what is called as going to a place where you are supposed to get your boons. But this is an inferior relation. Why? Because you have turned divine into a very mechanical machinery. He is like blindly he is dispensing you. Like Tirupati, you go, you have done this and he will give you. Now this is not how we should relate with the divine. But like a living being. What happens with a living being? If I ask, the person may refuse. If he thinks it's better to refuse. So that's where there is trust, confidence, that if he has refused, he knows what is best for me. So Sri Aurobindo says that prayer may start from this lower approach where the divine is supposed to give you whatever you ask. But it must change into that higher mode where he may or may not give, but still you continue to love him because your love is not based on this bargaining. And the highest prayer is, as we see in the Mother's prayer and meditation, which are only about giving oneself more and more. So he says prayer is a very powerful method, and slowly it begins to change later on into aspiration, longing, and when it changes into aspiration, longing, faith, then prayer is no more required. You may continue with it, but it's no more needed because now it has changed into longing. What are you going to pray? To the divine. You long to be one with him. So that's how he says that this is one path. And then he says that there are several stages in this progression of the yoga of divine love. And there he draws from the typical bhakti yoga standard approaches, and he starts from there and takes it to completely another level, which we'll read. So in the standard books, first of all, there are bhaktas who are supposed to experience moments of union, separation, viraha, the joy of union, and that is something like when we are away. You feel like you are experiencing some kind of viraha. You want to be in Pondicherry, you want to be near the Samadhi. You see, there is viraha. It's not taken viraha in that form, but there is a kind of longing. Then you come. Then there are moments when you feel very good when you are there, and there are moments when you feel disconnected. So there is a sense of unhappiness inside. So there is this viraha and milan. Now there pride is coming in. Pride comes in when people say, oh, you have abandoned me. That is egoism. But the right approach is that something within me has put a veil. So it proceeds like that, and there are three main processes if we want to use the word processes for the yoga bhakti. Though Sri Aurobindo says you can't use them as a mechanical process because love is love. You can't put it in a bracket or strictly this method or that method. So still, what are the processes? In typical bhakti sutras, we'll see Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. So what is Shravan? Hearing the names of the Lord and His qualities. That was the great importance of Lalita Sahasranam, Vishnu Sahasranam, Aditya Varnam, and then of course Ram. So these names are the exploits of Sri Krishna. People don't understand. They are still analyzing myth, legend, But when you read, you love Krishna. That at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether the stories are real, unreal, all that is not important. When you start loving Krishna, then this is not really so important because you have begun to love Shri Krishna, the Krishna who is beyond the scriptures, the Krishna whose historicity is no more important for you. So, hearing the name of the Lord, hearing about the Lord, and this is the answer to some people say that, why, for instance, we have some of these talks. One of the reasons is this: it is not because one even mistakenly believes that you can help anyone or anything. It's for the joy of sharing the joy of the Lord. Joy of sharing the joy of the Lord. So when we live in that atmosphere, the bhakta naturally seeks the atmosphere of the devotees. So to hear the names of the divine, that is the power of satsang. To read the names of the divine, so that is all Shravan. And then there is Manan. When you start meditating upon the qualities of the divine. Oh, he is all compassionate. What really is this compassion? Oh, he is all love. What kind of love is this? So when we begin to meditate upon his qualities, his attributes, like when we read the life of Sri Aurobindo, and we see some of those wonderful things about his life, his compassion, mother's gratitude yesterday, 29th March, or day before yesterday, the person who showed her the way to Sri Aurobindo's house, all her, every time, this man who was otherwise an uncouth person had this special favor in her eyes. So what it means to be grateful to the divine. So all this comes as we begin to meditate upon the qualities of the divine. So we have those 12 qualities when we meditate upon them because they are divine qualities. So we have Shravan and Manan. Then there is Nididhyasana. So Nididhyasana means now the consciousness is slowly getting fixed upon the divine. It takes the stand asan, dhyasan. So there is a constant thinking of the divine. The thoughts are occupied by the divine. Everywhere you begin to find something of the divine. Now when that stage happens, then we are on the royal road to the divine, and we are closing on to the divine personality. So divine personality, divine is not just, the Gyan Yogi speaks of divine largely as an impersonal universality, as a transcendent self, cosmic self. All that is fine. But the self doesn't allow a foothold to this self which is living here. So generally the yoga of knowledge takes us to that aspect of the divine which is purely a vast impersonal universality. We can use the word to an extent, Sat Purush. At the most, it'll take you to that self which is the Sat existent, self-existent reality. What is that called? Ekameva Dvityam. One without a second. So that is where the yoga of knowledge takes us. Great realization, no doubt. Sat Purush doesn't relate with you. Nothing to, he is absolute, transcendent. You can merge into him, lose yourself into him. Then when we take the yoga of works, then as consciousness and force, chit aspect. Because consciousness is the knowledge and force. Chit involves both. The power that is operating in the world. So we begin to get open to, and the realization is of the divine as the conscious power which is working in this universe. So Sat and Chit. But what is missing? Love takes us to Ananda Brahman. The divine is Ananda. And obviously, if you look at this world, all it's seeking after pleasure, this Maya, Moh, why? Because the original Ananda is missing. So when we take the path of love, as Ananda grows, automatically these things drop away. We don't have to struggle so much because by the very fact, and our nature begins to get molded in the nature of the divine because such is the power of love. Whomever we love, we begin to grow in the likeness of the person whom we love. And then finally, there is the mystery of love. So we'll just read a few things from Sri Aurobindo's writings. It's my favorite chapters. So, what really in this integral yoga, but even before that, we can relate with him as a teacher, as a guide, as someone who protects us, or in pain and suffering for deliverance. So, all these, the relation of fatherhood is always less close, intense, passionate, intimate, and therefore it is less resorted to in the yoga which seeks for the closest union, which we all know. Our Father, thou art in heaven. Dur say, you can't just. Fathers are always like approach through the mama when you want some favor. Yes, when you are in real difficulty, you know that my dad will take care of me. Otherwise, father is a little bit distant. That of the divine friend is a thing sweeter and more intimate, admits of an equality and intimacy. Even in inequality, he is much bigger. Then he comes like us. How the mother would play games, Shobinda himself would, those banter, those sweet little humorous asides, as if he is an equal. So this comes when we deal with him as a friend. And the beginning of mutual self-giving, at its closest, when all idea of other giving and taking disappears, when this relation becomes motiveless, except for the one sole, all-sufficing motive of love. So that's what the other day someone was asking about love, and I said, see, love is sufficient into itself. It needs nothing else. What you want, what you will give. Some people think when they go and to Shirbindo's room, now of course they have closed, so we have to open the inner room only, or to the samadhi. What should be their state? I said, just love. Love is sufficient. That's all that is required. It turns into the free and happy relation of the playmate in the Leela of existence. And it becomes very funny. Like Narad, he wanted to get married to somebody. And Hari said, okay. And then he is mocked by everybody. Because he has turned his face into a monkey's. And then that's the time he curses him. That one day monkeys only will save you. But I don't know whether Narad would do that. Frankly speaking, if you love him, all of us go through this experience. You desire something and it is not given to you. But you are given something which you really need. And then you sweetly smile with the corner. Okay, I know your play. Because he's a playmate. He's playing with us. And it's so nice. It's so wonderful. And you see that joy in the Leela. But closer and more intimate still is the relation of the mother and the child. And that therefore plays a very large part wherever the religious impulse is most richly fervent and springs most warmly from the heart of man. So you see in India, I think India is the only place which has kept all the different types of strands of spiritual life, but the worship of the Divine Mother is something very uniquely Indian. It was there in other civilization, but it's lost. God is always either a father or is an impersonal someone, and they don't know what they are missing. So here is, the soul goes to the mother's soul in all its desires and troubles. This answered that question that, should we ask mother for this? So my answer is, whom else you will ask? If you have to ask, you ask her. Otherwise, don't ask, leave it to her. But if you have to ask, where else you will ask? Whom else? And the beauty is, it's not about, again, whether it's fulfilled or not. The beauty is forms a bond, a relation from our side also. And the Divine Mother wishes it to be so. Because of the self-existent nature, so that she may pour out her heart of love. That's what the Divine Mother wants. But the highest and the greatest relation is that which starts from none of the ordinary religious motives, but is rather of the very essence of yoga, springs from the very nature of love itself. It is the passion of the lover and the beloved. So this lover and beloved means that whatever it be, you see what is meant by beloved. Ultimately, that's the only thing you really value. Everything else is there. But if it were taken away, if you have a choice, beloved I want, forget about other things. So he says, so what is the nature of this love? Wherever there is the desire of the soul for its utter union with God, This form of the divine yearning makes its way even into religions which seem to do without it and give it no place in their ordinary system. Here, the one thing asked for is love. The one thing feared is the loss of love. The one sorrow is the sorrow of separation of love. For all other things either do not exist for the lover or come in only as incidents or as results and not as objects or conditions of love. So these are, and of course, discipleship to God, the teacher, then of course, God as master whom you want to serve. All these relations, manifold, which we connect with the world, should be with the divine. That is the yoga of bhakti. And then he speaks about the integral yoga. So there is a little difference because this is an integral yoga. So he comes to the way of the integral yoga of bhakti will be to universalize this conception of the deity. So in traditional bhakti, it is Mother and Sri Aurobindo, none else, nothing else. Beautiful. But it becomes still narrow unless we start seeing the Mother and Sri Aurobindo in everyone and everything. Essentially, universalization means that. So one is where I keep a closed door compartment, and the other is where there is a wide embrace of creation because it is Mother and Sri Aurobindo's. You want to serve the world not because you have any illusion about helping or anything, but because you see that he is laboring here. So why won't you labor? Often I used to say this, that if he has entered into the sewer and is cleansing the sewer, supposing you see the divine whom we love, that he is cleansing the sewer, will you suddenly walk away with the stench and say, this is your job? When it is done, when you have put the perfume, then you call me. Till then, I will relax in your garden of colonnade with all the perfume. Won't say that. If you really love, you will plunge into it and says, Lord, please let me dirty my hands. This is what you will say. You won't even wait to wear the gloves. And you don't have this thought that you will take care, but you know that he will take care. Though even it's not done with that idea. To fall in the way of love of God, loving God in all things and everywhere is that story where Praveen shoots an arrow against Arjuna when the Ashwamedh Yajna is taking place after the war is over. But Arjun can't do anything to Praveen. Never heard of this name also. So he says, Mother, what has happened? I am the one who showed the dust to all these great warriors. Who is this young fellow and I can't do anything to him? He says, the secret is constantly in remembrance of me. You can't defeat him. He says, so what do I do? Because this is Ashwamedh. You only have asked us to do this yajna. So what is the way? He says, well, I'll tell you the way. Because this has to be done. So he tells him the way, that when you shoot the arrow, now you think of me and I invoke me at the spear point. So he invokes him at the spear point. So as Arjun shoots the arrow, Praveen sees, and because he's a Krishna Bhakta, he realizes this is none else but Krishna. He bows down and happily lays his life. And of course he is merged into Krishna. So that is the kind of bhakti that can go, where one cares for nothing except the lover and the loved. So here he says, and what was he doing? He was doing his duty. Initially he tells his mother, and his mother says, see, it is evident that where there is Arjuna, there is Krishna. There is no way you stand a chance, or anybody stands a chance. Yet it's given to you to protect the kingdom. So you do your bit. So with that idea, he offers everything to Krishna and goes. On one side is Krishna himself, on the other side is a heart given to Krishna. You see the difference. So many such stories, of course, we know. So what is the way of integral yoga? Universalize this conception of the deity to personalize him intimately by a multiple and all-embracing relation. to make him constantly present to all the being, and to devote, give up, surrender the whole being to him, so that he shall dwell near to us and in us, and we with him and in him. So he's suddenly telling us, not only in the temple doors, inside the sanctum sanctorum, he says to exclude humanity and embrace God is to give him a intense but narrow embrace. But everywhere, even on the battlefield, one has to see him. Manan and darshan, a constant thinking of him in all things, and seeing of him always and everywhere, is essential to this way of devotion. Now he is giving us further, and this is the experience with which Sri Aurobindo's yoga took that grand trunk road. When we look on the things of physical nature, in them we have to see the divine object of our love. Krishna is here, Krishna is there, Krishna in the camera, Krishna on the table. That's what is meant by saying Mad Bhava, Mad Gata. Be full of Krishna, full of the Divine Mother in all these things. This is a practice. When we look upon men and beings, we have to see Him in them and our relation with them, to see that we are entering into relations with forms of Him. So when he goes, Sri Aurobindo is meditating below in Motilal Roy's house, and suddenly his wife comes half nude and with that jhadu, and suddenly he sees lamps of light going. And what does Sri Aurobindo say? Our Krishna, our Kali Sakshat hoye gelo. She has appeared before me. So everywhere in everything to see aspects and forms of the Divine Mother. When breaking beyond the limitations of the material world, we know or have relations with the beings of other planes, still the same thought and vision has to be made real to our minds. Hanumanji, give me bhakti and seva for the Divine Mother. He'll be very happy. Lord Rama, give me that shaurya, that courage, that strength, that love. He is, known as harmony. Love for harmony, that capacity to live by the dharma so that I can serve the Divine Mother better and better. So everywhere, Lord Ganesha, the way you have loved her, may I love you like that. So in every way, everywhere, the normal habit of our minds, which are open only to the material and apparent form and the ordinary mutilated relation, and ignore the secret Godhead within, has to yield by an unceasing habit. This is the practice, because normally we are taken by the form. Unceasing habit of all embracing love and delight to this deeper and ampler comprehension and this greater relation. Now, the only catch here is that why in Vaishnava this concept is there, but it changes into all lust. Because when we are not pure and we begin to embrace, it's like, I had somebody and people had got him to me. I said, what is the problem? He said, I look at a tree and I want to embrace. I want to hug everyone. I said, see, tree is okay. Wall is okay. Up till a man, it's okay. But don't try doing this to a woman, because you are in that state of love, but suddenly who knows that something else will be triggered in her or in you. So it requires a tremendous purity. But there comes a time when it doesn't matter, because you are living in that state of consciousness where more and more you are seeing everyone an aspect of form of the divine. So enlarging our spiritual embrace, we reach a point in which all is He. And the delight of this consciousness becomes to us our normal, uninterrupted way of looking at the world. This brings Ananda. That brings us the outward or objective universality of our union with Him. Not only within my heart, not only within all hearts, but in all forms, in every aspect of creation. Inwardly, the image of the beloved has to become visible to the eye within. dwelling in us as in his mansion. So it becomes his temple, his home. So whenever we have to go to him, go inside and do this pranam. So nice, so sweet. Shortcut, anytime, anywhere. Informing our hearts with the sweetness of his presence. The sign of the bhakta is sweetness. Madhuram, madhuram. He can't help it, poor fellow. So because otherwise, oh, bhakti, but see how harsh people become, how difficult they become. But the heart of the bhakta is automatically molded in his sweetness, presiding over all our activities of mind and life as the friend, master, and lover from the summit of our being, uniting us from above and himself in a universe. So, then he says, this is important. This communion is not to be confined to an exceptional nearness and adoration when we retire quiet into ourselves away from our normal preoccupations. So, when I had come earlier, this obviously the first thing you feel is, oh, you want to do Siddha Samadhi. You don't want to do anything else. I even wanted to live in Golkund. And then somebody told me something very interesting, and another thought also came to me. So, what I was told was something very interesting. You are a doctor, you are here to serve the mother, you can't be in Golkund because phones are not allowed. I said, that is true, I'll have to sacrifice this. And the second was that, what I felt like a voice within, that everybody wants to do this, to go to the Samadhi and decorate the flowers, which is beautiful. But for you, this whole world is the Samadhi. And fill it with flowers. So I said, okay, this at least for my path, it's very clear. Whatever be the path of everybody else. So he says, not just an exceptional nearness and adoration, nor is it to be sought by a putting away of our human activities. All our thoughts, impulses, feelings, actions have to be referred to him for his sanction or disallowance. I'm going to do this. Tell me. Come, please. Now the beauty is sometimes what happens when you do something which is at cross purpose. It may happen. But you have told him, you please be around. He will make sure, not only he'll bring you out, but bring you out greater, wiser, stronger. This is the beauty of love. If we cannot yet reach this point, to be offered to him in our sacrifice of aspiration, so that he may more and more descend into us and be present in them all and pervade them with all his will and power, his light and knowledge, his love and delight. I don't know what you want of me. Anyways, I am offering this to you so that this too becomes a means of strengthening, widening, intensifying my union with you. And that's why in love, purification does not take place through the ethical sense. It takes place through this idea, I love him, this is not worthy of, I love him, how can I engage in something which my lover and beloved may not like, and I have to, that Sri Ramakrishna's story where he told Girish Ghosh, you're drinking, you're doing this, doesn't matter, but keep offering to me. After 1 week, he says, what kind of a teaching you have given me? How can I do all this and offer to you? But this is how love proceeds. So too in all happenings, we have to come to see the dealings with us of the divine lover. No complaint, no grudges, and not that inside we are fuming and saying, oh, we are not supposed to complain, but why did you do this? Ye kya kiya re dunya wale, jahan ke gam. Then you say ki whatever you have done, you know best. I am so happy because you trust him completely and absolutely. And take such pleasure in them that even grief and suffering and physical pain become his gifts and turn to delight and disappear finally into delight, slain by the sense of the divine contact. So often people ask this question, which is very difficult to reply to somebody who has even a little bit of love for the Divine Mother. How are you? You're looking little thin. Is everything okay? Are you running this problem, that problem? Hey, let me think of Mother. Why you want me to think of myself? And then you keep offering to her, and even pain, suffering, everything becomes a means, because it is making you think. Not that we should seek it, but when it comes, even this becomes a door to his delight. Look at it. Disappear finally. Even physical pain become his gifts and turn to delight, and disappear finally into delight, slain by the sense of the divine contact, because the touch of his hands is the alchemist of a miraculous transformation. Some reject life because it is tainted with grief and pain, but to the God lover, grief and pain become means of meeting with him, imprints of his pressure, and finally cease as soon as our union with his nature becomes too complete for these masks of the universal delight at all to conceal it. The change into the Ananda. And then, of course, he says that beautiful passage, I must read this. All the relations by which this union comes about become on this path intensely and blissfully personal. That which in the end contains, takes up, or unifies them all is the relation of lover and beloved. But he speaks of now all the other relations. He is the teacher and guide and leads us to knowledge at every step of the developing inner light and vision. Then we don't have to do separately a yoga of knowledge. Arey, you love him. He is all knowledge. He'll just transfer it like this. Attach a pipe here and a pipe there. Direct download file, uploading, downloading. You love him. After all, those whom we love, we begin to understand their thought, how they must be thinking, because you love. So this is what, as the teacher, we feel his touch like that of the artist molding our clay of mind. His voice revealing the truth and its word, the thought he gives us to which we respond. He fills the mind with the thoughts that must come, the flashing of his spears of lightning which chase the darkness of our ignorance. So he intuitive flashes that cleave the brain. We cease to think and see for ourselves, but think only what he wills to think for us. That's why it becomes so difficult to think, and in that usual way. And sometimes, I must say, what you are going to eat. Now this becomes such a burden. What I am going to eat, after if you ask 3 times, what is it? Okay, make. So I have a standard format, make puri aloo, so that I save myself all this thought. No, it's nice, always welcome. But whatever you get, then it's okay. And then the teacher is fulfilled in the lover. He lays hands on all our mental being to embrace and possess, to enjoy and use it. The space becomes his. You can't allow kachara and dirt and ill will and all bad thoughts and for this person. How can you allow? He has taken hold of this. In fact, it won't come because he has taken hold. He starts from there. He is the master. But in this way of approach, all distance and separation, all awe and fear and mere obedience disappear. Because we become too close and unified with him for these things to endure. And it is the lover of a being who takes it up and occupies and uses and does with it whatever he wills. When somebody went to meet the mother before going to US, and the mother gave him blessing packet, and he was going to get, then suddenly Champak Lalji tells mother, give him more. So mother smiled and said, how much more? Then she went into a trance and gave him a number of blessing packets. The person himself was saying, and the way his life flourished. So you can say that. You can say somebody, mother, I like him, I am fond of him. Because to your master you can say, thoda inka bhi dekh lena. So, please, take care of him also. You don't start, should I not, is it? All this goes away because, this is a relation of love. So he says, obedience is the sign of the servant. But that is the lowest of this relation, dasya. Afterwards, we do not obey, but move to his will. As the string replies to the finger of the musician, to be the instrument is the higher stage of self-surrender and submission. But this is the living and loving instrument, and it ends in the whole nature of a being becoming the slave of God, rejoicing in his position and its own blissful subjection to the divine grasp and mastery. He is the friend, the advisor, the helper, savior in trouble and distress, the defender from enemies. But that relation has to be forced. Suddenly, oh, somebody has done this to me, and it's a relation. I have seen, I'll give an example. Long back, 14, 15 years, whatever, suddenly I had received a kind of threat from local mafias based on something. The story is not important. And I went and asked some of these people who can give advice, take a lawyer, do this. They are very dangerous people. Even people who have lived here for 40 years, 50 years, they didn't tell me, turn to the mother. They told me that, see, they are very dangerous people, and quoted me that scene from Godfather or somewhere. They chatkao your fingers, they break it and all this. I said, what a fool that I am asking all these people. I had gone to the Samadhi. This was because I came to know while I was with some people, and I asked them, oh, it's very dangerous. Maybe, you have to pay this money. This, everything I heard. I went to the Samadhi and said, Mother, this it. I that time felt that suddenly everything has been arrested. The impression was it is stopped, and for good. Now, I didn't know that this is a feeling, this is an intuitive sense, hopeful thinking, but I didn't question it. That was the end of the whole thing. How he defends. I mean, it's unimaginable. So but this is a relation you have to forge. You can't just suddenly one day say, oh, I'm in a distress, defend me. He may help you in distress. But it's a service. When you serve him, he also takes care. Okay, imagine even human people, good human people, noble beings. Look at Ram. How he takes care of all who have taken care of him. Jatayu, he even goes to give it. When the divine comes as Sri Aurobindo and the mother, what they are going to do. Defender from enemies. The hero fights our battles, but you have to also say, whenever there is a battle, you fight from the side of the divine, and not that this is administration, this is the higher people, they are the ones, ultimately you have to go to them. There was a thing here, and somebody asked one, do you think Sri Aurobindo needs your defense? I said, no, who is fool enough to think like that? I say, but it's such a joy. You don't know? How dare somebody say something to Sri Aurobindo and I am going to just sit quiet? I say, it's not that Sri Aurobindo needs me. That thought doesn't come to me. So, I gave the example of Nal Neel. I said, did Rama need Nal Neel? Did Krishna need even Arjuna? But it's the joy that, you dare not. That joy when you participate, it's a mutual thing. And not that, oh, if I do this, harm may come to me, somebody else may do this to me, my name will be spoiled, they will drag me here and there. It doesn't matter. It's an urge. And the mother has spoken about it when somebody had written a book on Sri Aurobindo or some article which was in bad taste. And Amal Kiran felt after reading it that there was a fire burning here like a sharp tongue like a sword. And he wrote to mother, what is happening to me? She said, this is because of your love for the divine. It's the sword of Kali. And it will continue to act till that is destroyed. She said, this is perfectly fine. But yes, when you calculate with the mind, it cannot be. Oh, does he need? He's all, why should I do anything? Imagine Arjuna saying, Krishna, you have the Kaumudi Gada and you have the Sudarshan Chakra. Let me take sannyas and do Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. So this is bhakti, where, the hero fights our battles, and under whose shield we fight, the charioteer, the pilot of our ways. And here we come at once to a closer intimacy. He is the comrade and eternal companion, the playmate of the game of living. But still there is so far a certain division, however pleasant, and friendship is too much limited by the appearance of beneficence. The lover can wound, abandon, be wroth with us, seem to betray, yet our love endures, even grows by these oppositions. That's why he drives us to weeping and lures us again. They increase the joy of reunion and the joy of possession. Most people don't know how to love. So at the first kind of sense of either betrayal, something, no, they go away. If they know how to love, they will see that every time you get back, there is a greater joy. It is true even in human love. How much more it will be true in the love of the divine. Through them, the lover remains the friend, and all that he does, we find in the end, has been done by the lover and helper of our being for our soul's perfection as well as for his joy in us. That's what bhakti means, bhaj, to take joy. These contradictions lead to a greater intimacy. He is the father and mother, he is the child born to a desire whom we cherish and rare. All these things the lover takes up. His love in its intimacy and oneness keeps in it the paternal and maternal care and lends itself to our demands upon it. See, this idea, all is unified in the deepest many-sided relation. This idea that mind creates frames. This is mother, this is father, this is brother, this is sister, this is wife, this is husband, this is lover. It's actually not true. In any relation, you are seeking everything, including a counselor and mentor. People don't realize that these frames in the ultimate sense of love. So the divine takes up all of this. The growing love of God must carry with it in him an expansion of the knowledge of God and the action of the divine will in his nature and living. And then he says that even when we throw up all the passions of the heart against him, till they are purified into a soul ecstasy of bliss and oneness. He may say, in the beginning, of course, what is this? Why did you do this to me? Why did you let this happen to me? It doesn't matter. He receives them and changes them. But that too is no monotony. It is not possible for the tongue of human speech to tell all the utter unity and all the eternal variety of the ananda of divine love. What does it lead to? For the one, but for love, complete union is mukti. Liberation has to it no other sense. And it includes all kinds of mukti together. Nor are they in the end, as some would have it, merely successive to each other and therefore mutually exclusive. All the different kinds of liberation the lover grants are it. He is the master, lord of the world. Whatever he wants to grant, he can grant. So what all he can grant? We have the absolute union of the divine with the human spirit, Sayujya. In that reveals itself a content of all that depends here upon difference. But there the difference is only a form of oneness. Ananda too of nearness and contact and mutual presence. Samipya, Salokya, Sananda, Ananda of mutual reflection, the thing that we call likeness, Sadrishya, and other wonderful things too, for which language has yet no name. So Sayuj is union. So what happens after that? For the joy of it, there is that separation. So there comes a stage when Hanuman and Rama are not too different. They are one. But then for the joy, Hanuman, Rama becomes Hanuman. And that's why he says, where has Rama gone? When, they say that Rama is gone. Everybody is weeping. He says, what kind of fool you are? Where is Rama gone? See, he dwells within my heart. And as the story goes, when Ram is giving to everybody necklace of pearls, things, this, that, he just throws away the necklace of pearl. He doesn't throw away, he starts plucking a bead and throwing it away. And they say, what are you doing? He says, I am trying to see whether I can see him in each of these. So they say, oh, you mean you have reached to that extent? He says, no, but I know that he dwells within my heart. And I know that. And that is the time, that famous image where he opens his heart and shows that all the time Rama and Sita dwell within. So he says all these terms, Sayujya, Salokya, Samipya, Sanidhya, Sadrishya, all these and much more of which the human tongue cannot utter. And then he ends up, there is nothing which is beyond the reach of the God lover or denied to him. Last sentence of this entire chapters on the yoga of divine love. There is nothing which is beyond the reach of the God lover or denied to him, for he is the favorite of the divine lover and the self of the beloved. So if you ask God, where is your self? He will say, see the bhakta. Just imagine. He is the self of the beloved. The bhakta becomes the self of the beloved. He begins to dwell constantly in the heart of the Divine Mother.